for Bitcoin. They need. We had someone earlier this week say 125 basis points this year. That would be Bitcoin would go up on that if they don't cut.
But Bitcoin's going up anyway.
It's at 97.
That's not good enough for you. It's at 97,000.
Good enough for you because when I told you stay away from that stupid 2-year and put it in Bitcoin, you laughed at me. That was like 27,000, wasn't it?
One of the worst trades, maybe of all time.
Anonymous. Electric media in general. Electric media in general amplify information range, scope, pushing information into a service environment by simultaneity, obsolesces the visual, the connected, the logical, the rational.
One of the worst trades, maybe of all time. On my end.
Yeah,
on my end. Yeah.
I know I begged you.
Yeah.
The old man begged the young person who can take all the risk.
All hardware into software.
One of the worst trades, maybe of all time. On my end.
Yeah,
on my end. Yeah.
I know I begged you.
Yeah.
The old man begged the young person who can take all the risk and you still.
Do you know I wrote a mea culpa about all that? And
Did you?
I said how I learned to stop worrying and love the stock market, but Bitcoin was a problem.
That 2-year you bought, I don't know what you put into it, but.
Spotify. Like I interviewed a prominent music business attorney who represents major artists. When I first talked to him about Spotify a year ago, I said, what are the royalty payments like? And he said, lunch.
I think now you might be able to buy not just dinner. I think now you might be able to buy not just dinner.
We might be on the path to a constitutional crisis. We'll ask 2 experts about whether or not this is a constitutional crisis. We've never faced quite the constitutional crisis that we do right now. They are fomenting a constitutional crisis. Are we staring down the barrel of a constitutional crisis? This is an existential constitutional crisis. A constitutional crisis, possibly. The constitutional crisis alarm bells are ringing. But is anybody listening? We're now like one subway stop from a real constitutional crisis. We are in effect, a constitutional crisis. Constitutional crisis. We're hearing it over and over again. Nancy Pelosi's already said that Donald Trump is unfit for office. She said that he belongs in prison. She says that we're in a constitutional crisis. If that's not enough to begin an impeachment inquiry, then what on earth is? Warnings of an impending constitutional crisis ripped through the nation's capital. There are experts who are saying this is a constitutional crisis. We are at a dangerous time in our history, a constitutional crisis that probably is the most severe moment since the Civil War. New warnings of a constitutional crisis just weeks into Trump's second term. The stage is set for a constitutional crisis. Could this signal the start of a constitutional crisis? Legal experts say our country could be headed toward a constitutional crisis. They're calling this a constitutional crisis. This is a constitutional crisis? I am unapologetic in suggesting we are in a constitutional crisis right now. Are we already in a constitutional crisis? Those 2 words, right? Constitutional crisis.
I think now you might be able to buy not just dinner, but
Used to be breakfast.
U.S. District Court judge denied the RIAA's request for a temporary injunction against the Rio. They were just shocked when they lost, Watkins says. They had never lost a case before. In October 1999, Diamond sold 200,000 copies of the Rio PMP 300 after that. Meanwhile, over at rapidly recovering Apple Computer, Steve Jobs' latest idea was the digital hub strategy.
you might get an appetizer. After 2 years,
And then once you pay tax.
I think now you might be able to buy not just dinner, but you might get an appetizer. Oh, wow. That sounded like the voice of God. You're going to want to stop us later because there's going to be no governor. With you here, I'm like going to be, I can't be. I'm going to rein it in. But I will just say that the day after Tariff Day.
Which tariff day?
Yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
The sun came up again. The Constitution is apparently intact. Democracy. I checked this morning. Democracy has not ended. There will be no singing of songs here.
You're not going to like this, but
we're less than 1% off all-time highs.
We so shrugged it off yesterday that I started to think to myself, maybe we need to be taking this more seriously. I did.
If you listen to the breathless reporting of legacy media during you would think we're down 30%.
I've been among that. I was very concerned about
breathless.
the Mexico and Canada. With 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, I guess it's never going to happen.
We need to talk.
implied PCE. Bitcoin also has been.
And Squawk Box begins right now. And Squawk Box begins right now.
Implied PCE. Bitcoin.
And Squawk Box begins right now. Today about what is with, if it is reciprocal, and it's hard for us to, sometimes it's not just tariffs, it's other barriers to entry that we're going to need to estimate to find out exactly what, but what are these countries, why have they been able to do this for so long? And what's their rationale for doing that to us?
I actually think a lot of people, myself included, are sitting here going, yeah, why has that been happening?
Right.
You know?
I mean, okay, you're not the United States. That doesn't give you the right. Just because you're not as successful economically as that doesn't mean that you should be, that all of a sudden, okay, you're doing so well, you gotta.
Right. That we can just protect. The VAT thing, I think, is interesting. So the value-added tax and the idea that, you know, that kind of disguises, you know, some of the extra cost of U.S. goods and how we might respond to that. And you know, I still get people saying that they think we're going to do a VAT. Do you think Trump would ever do that?
I don't think we're doing a VAT. I hope not.
Retrieves the subliminal, audile, tactile dialogue involvement, brings back.
How many thoughts can you cram in your head?
Rather, sincerely reverses, finally, all hardware into software.